McIlvoy, I'm KPRC2 Sports Director Randy McIlvoy. Great to have you with us. We chop it up over the next 30 minutes or so. We're going to be breaking it down this week. A block, we're talking Texans Bills. Get you ready for Sunday's game at NRG. In the B block, in this episode, all things Astros now that their season is officially over. It ended a lot earlier than we thought it would. Check it out. The group we are hanging with over the next 30 minutes, you know them well. Aaron Wilson, our insider for Click2Houston.com for the Texans. We got Kim Davis from Chalk Talk, covers the Astros and the Texans as well, plus the Rockets. And Adam Wexler, Sports Talk 790. Gang, welcome in. We got a little bit to talk about, right?
A little bit to talk about.
This first block, we're going to focus on the Texans. Not like it's been a slow sports week, but we got a football game coming up on Sunday at NRG Stadium. A great start. I guess the theme, guys, out of 4 games, you're sitting 3-1, but there's still issues they've got to clean up a little bit, especially with the Bills coming to town. Kim, we'll start with you.
Well, the first thing they have to do, obviously, is get rid of the penalties. Like, they cannot commit the penalties they've had before and have a chance to win against this Bills team. It's a good team they're facing. They need to get the run game going, right? We can't expect it to be spectacular. We don't know what's going to happen with Mixon. But if they can just get something in the run game, and then they're going to have to let CJ air it out.
Starts up front. Got to step up too, Aaron.
Yeah, Randy, the penalty issue is a really enormous one for them. They are the penalty leader. They got 40 penalties. Laramie Tunsil leads the NFL with 11 penalties. They've got to clean it up. They've got guys going downfield like Kenyon Green this past game. And if they fix some of these problems, it's kind of like Cal McNair was saying to me earlier this week, they are a team that's very talented. They haven't played very well. That's the glass half full outlook for them.
Yeah, Rex, this is a weak division too. You got to take care of business inside of this division, but stronger opponents are coming in. Bills, you got more down the road here.
I mean, this actually, even for it to be just the 5th game of the season, is a monster game. When you look at the standings, there's only one team with a better record than the Texans. That's the Chiefs. The Bills have the same record as the Texans. You all of a sudden essentially move 2 games ahead of them if you beat them head up this week. So it's kind of a big game this early in the season. What Kim mentioned, the record is the good news. The bad news is most everything that got them there, other than they're back at home. And I was in here before a couple weeks ago talking about CJ at home. He's like the best quarterback in the NFL when he plays at NRG Stadium. They've won 5 straight home games. They've won 9 of his last 10 starts there. He's averaging over 300 yards per game. They had to have a score at the end of the game to win the game at home against Jacksonville. No problem. Took him right down the field.
All right, let's check in now. D'Amico Ryans on starting the second quarter, if you will, of this season, hopefully playing some clean football. Here's what he had to say.
All about how much better can our team get in October, right? We, with the opponents that we face now, it's a matter of, man, can we know we play sloppy football in the first month of the season, like not Texans football. So for our team and our message for us is, man, how much better can we get? And it just starts still one day at a time. But as a coach, you can't look at it in those, 4-quarter segments.
That was D'Amico Ryans breaking it down. And he's right, man. You learn from this first 4 games, and you will gladly, at least you're on the positive end of things. Yeah. You're sitting 3-1 right now with things to correct as opposed to 1-3 or whatever it might be. So I think he feels good about this talent, and people have to step up, and we don't know the situation. Kim, you mentioned too. The running back situation, the running game's got to get going. We just don't know who's going to be back there.
It's going to be Cam Akers. I was texting a little bit right before, and it's looking like Cam Akers will be RB1 again for the 3rd game in a row. So him, Dario Gomawale, not looking good for Joe Mixon. They just feel like the ankle is still an issue. Not official yet, but it's trending that way, and it will be.
But so we say both of those names, but is it really just Cam? I mean,
well, that's the thing. RB1 is relative. They had an RB1. That is Joe Mixon.
That is Joe Mixon.
Akers, Dare, and I'm still
1A.
kind of blown away how much J.J. Taylor is seeing the field these last couple of weeks, and I don't expect that to change. They obviously have some concerns about kind of putting everything on Cam Akers' plate, having him follow the offense the way it needs to be. He obviously has the most skill, but it doesn't really matter. Somebody's got to get the run game going. You mentioned it. It does clearly start up front. And that's the one reason they had a huge running game in week 1 against the Colts. Clearly Joe was there, but they were blowing the Colts off the ball. There were holes all over the place.
Yeah.
They are capable of doing that against some teams, and Bills will be without Ed Oliver for this game. That is a huge advantage for the Texans. Von Miller is suspended, so won't see him on passing downs. They have to take advantage of that.
Well, the other thing, too, is the Bills are not a super strong run defense, right? They don't do that really well. They're not going to see a lot of blitzes because that's what they run. So, and when I say have a good run game, if they can just get 3 yards a carry, right?
Just bump it up a little bit.
Just a little bit. They don't have to just blow it away to give CJ some room to cook. That's the kind of thing I think we can hope for this week.
Step in the right direction with the run game last week. It was not as bad, and that's grading on a pretty good curve there. But I think that they are starting to get their run fits better. I think Cam is getting a little more confident now that he's had more playing time. There was a rust factor with him, too, coming off the Achilles. It's not Joe Mixon, but it's not going to be. This is your backup running back, and Dameon Pierce is still out with a strained hamstring.
What are we hearing on, and we'll get to Diggs in a minute, but Tank Dell, what's his status been? I know he's been out there going through practice. That flak jacket is in place as well. How much do you think we will see him, and how close to 100%
I think he's going to be able to play. He won't be 100%. He's still dealing with some pain. It's a really bad bruise, and he landed on the football. It's a tough deal from the Minnesota game. But Tank is trending toward playing. We expect him out there. He's prepared all week. And I thought he looked good running the routes that we've been able to see. I think he'll be okay.
How about the build-up now to this Bills game? And I want to ask first, the whole Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, is it a redemption game for one of them? Is that overblowing it, really, when you look at this football game? Down deep, though, if you're Stephon, you kind of want to stick it to your old team, right?
Well, what he wants to do is show them what they did to him at the end of their season last year was a mistake. They took him out of the offense. First part of the season, they had one OC. He was a huge part of their offense. Then they changed OCs. They changed what they wanted to do. Granted, they did win a bunch of games at the end of the year to overtake Miami, but he was not a big part of what they were doing. He's clearly a huge part of what the Texans are doing. There's a reason why he's here, and they're showing it. That's all that's going to happen here. The Texans are going to use him like they want to. We will probably call it a redemption game for somebody and a revenge game for somebody, but they won't.
Yeah, and I don't think he looks at it that way. I think he really does want to win. I think it's what Weck said. Look what you guys did last year. I should have been a part of this offense, but here's where I am now. I want to be here. I want to win with this team, and I think he wants to have a significant impact, and he wants to show what he can do this week. And, by the way, it's against his old team.
I think we got some video of Diggs. We can roll that and continue talking about kind of his presence, what he's brought to this locker room there.
That conversation, too, with Nico Collins, he said, we know what this game means to Steph. When teammates talk about that, it's kind of telling. I think that it will be somewhat emotional for him. I think that he just doesn't want to do anything to add gasoline to the fire. But, for Stephon Diggs, he's absolutely phased out by Joe Brady, who's still calling the plays for the Bills. And, this is a guy that's on pace now for 106 catches with the Texans. So, obviously, very happy here. And I thought C.J. Stroud put it very well. He loves the game of football, and I'm so happy he's having fun playing the game again.
All right, let's listen in now. Stephon Diggs speaking this week, along with Nico Collins, talking about his teammates.
I feel like it was amazing, especially coming from Minnesota. Since I stepped foot in that building, we had some good years. He had a real good run. Played at a very high level. Did the ball with a good group of guys. So something I'll never forget.
We know what type of week this is for Steph. It's an important week. But again, it's another important week for the team to win. Home game on our home turf. Another opponent coming in trying to beat us. So I feel like for us, man, we got to be locked in on the details, locked in, mentally and physically, man, because this team, they on the mission.
All right, Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. Nico really loves having Diggs around, but it's interesting because Nico obviously is the clear wide receiver one on this football team.
Having Stephon around is good where we were talking to Nico in the locker room. It's clearly good on the field. I mean, Nico Collins did so much of this last year. I think we kind of just assumed there was still a progression to be made. But Stephon Diggs is running routes every time he's running routes. That matters when you're a DC, when you're trying to figure out how to slow this offense down. It'll matter more that Tank Dell is back. Covering Nico Collins, impossible to begin with. It's that much easier, and clearly he's still the go-to guy, and he's been the best receiver in the NFL this year, and there's really no argument.
It's fun to watch him elevate his game. We're all out there during the off season and training camp, and He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. That work in the offseason is really paying off.
He talks a lot about that, about how he worked in the offseason to get bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
One, because he wants to be healthy. We're seeing him like drag guys across the goal line, and he's like, no, I want to be able to be on the field. I want to have a whole season where I'm here every time and I'm healthy. And so he said, I worked on some of the smaller things, not just to pump and get big, but he was intentional about how he prepared for the season, and we can see.
He had a comparison, too. You interviewed Andre Johnson. Andre comparing himself to kind of what Nico's doing, right?
A great comparison. He said he loves his physicality. He looks at Nico as someone that has some of his qualities. And to hear that from a Hall of Famer, that meant a lot to Nico. I agree with the comparison because he is a big physical bully out there. And these little defensive backs can't handle 6'4", 222, and 4'4" speed with body control, routes, and hands to go with it.
Yeah.
He's a total package. This guy is a true number one. And I think he's headed to the Pro Bowl.
All right, we've got a few minutes left in the A block here talking Texans. We'll get to Astros in a few minutes, but we want to go a little bit deeper here with Nico Collins. We do it when we tape these shows. The over-under game. I know it's really creative. Nobody's ever done this before. But we're going to pop up this graphic now on Nico Collins and play a little over-under and really talk about what he has done and what he might do Sunday against the Buffalo Bills, and his season numbers as well, some of the projections already. So here it is. Let's take a couple of steps back and just kind of look at it, and we'll do a little over-under. And the projection for Sunday, of course, is on the left, and then his season projections, what he's pacing for right now. Will he?
I think we all got a chuckle when we saw this number here.
Hey, there's always ups and downs, but he's on pace for a very important one.
Yeah.
Just like Stephon Diggs on pace for 106 catches. We'll see.
Absolutely. We'll see. Let's start, Wex, let's start with you Sunday. And then what do you think about the season?
Well, one of the things that has also gone up this year is his targets. He saw 15 targets last week. So this number's probably really, really good. I think I'm going to take the over. I think he's going to see 8 catches. Okay. I'm going to take the under on this, even though he is a big play receiver. So if he has 8 catches, he's probably going to hit that too. But I'll go under there. I think he's going to hit right on that 1 touchdown this weekend against the Bills.
All right, let's stick to the game Sunday. Kim, what do you think?
I'm pretty much what Wex is. I'm going to go over on the receptions, under a little bit on the yards, and I think 1 on the touchdown.
I like that.
Like him for the catches. I think he'll actually hit the yardage. I think that there's going to be a lot of attention on Stephon Diggs in this game, and I think he'll also score. So, yeah, I'm going with 3 overs for Nico Collins.
All right, I'm going to go over on the catches, under on the yardage. I think he's going to get a touchdown. Real quick, season numbers real quick. What do y'all think? I mean, what an incredible pace right now. It's going to take a lot to keep that up, but that, if you break it down right now, it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Receptions, I'll go with what that number is. I feel pretty good about that. Yeah. I'm going to go under on the yards. I think he's going to have a great season.
Right.
I'm going to go under on the yards, and I feel pretty good about the 9 touchdowns. I'm actually going to go over.
I will go with the under for the catches, under for the yards, and I think he hits the touchdowns or goes over.
Yeah, if you're healthy every week, you hit the over, but I'll take the under on the catches, the under on the yards, and I think you did that on purpose with the 9 since we compared him to Andre Johnson, who never had a double-figure touchdown season. So I'll give the over to Nico.
All right, I'm going to go under on the catches. I'm going to go under on the yards, and I'll go actually over on the touchdowns for Nico Collins. We'll see. It's a long season ahead, but it's fun to talk about the fact that he's even pacing for that. It's pretty fun. All right, reminder coming up, you got the Texans and the Bills Sunday. Get there early. They're expecting, obviously, another great crowd. Hit the tailgate and get on into your seat. 12 noon kickoff there at NRG Stadium. All right, Aaron's going to scoot out. He's got to get to practice to check in with the Texans. So thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. When we come back, we're going to talk some Astros. The season's over. What's next? We'll debate that straight ahead. Stick around. And welcome back. Mic'd Up with McIlvoy. We're switching gears now to the Astros. And, man, who would have predicted a wild card sweep, guys, by the Detroit Tigers? Well, it'll happen. We know that. Postseason short-lived. And I hope that playoff merchandise, by now, maybe 90% off. We can go get a piece of that now the season's over. Here's reaction Wednesday after that Game 2 loss at Minute Maid Park.
I want our guys to be proud of how far we've come. Like, it was a very challenging season. And, we reached the postseason, something that's our goal every year, is we win the division and then play deep into the playoffs. And it didn't happen for us this year.
I was just super proud of the fight in the room all year long. A lot of guys grew, got better, continued to compete. Some guys, the season didn't start the way they wanted it to. They kept battling, and yeah, it was just an honor to play with this group. Every year is different. Every team's different, but this team, it was one of the funnest seasons I've had, having to dig ourselves out of a hole and continue to compete all year long.
That was a reaction from the clubhouse and at the podium after the Game 2 loss at Minute Maid Park. I mean, I thought they would at least get to the ALDS. I was absolutely shocked this thing didn't at least go 3 games. Detroit coming in hot, but to come in here and sweep the Astros, shout out to the Tigers and A.J. Hinch, but disappointment, I think, for the Astros.
You figure in Game 2, when you have a 2-1 lead and you're going to Presley and Hader, maybe, yes, it is going to Game 3, but they got outplayed. They got outpitched. They got outhit. It is pretty simple. It is a short series. It's the reason why you want to avoid how Major League Baseball set up the postseason. The Astros have been awesome at avoiding a wild card series all these years. You just don't want to be in it. You lose 2 games in a row all season long. This team lost that quite a bit this year. But what Alex said was really the truth about the season. This was a very different year. They've never been in this situation before. They never had as many hurdles to jump over. They never had the types of problems they had. And they obviously never had a start like this, including his start. He's been bad early in most of his seasons.
Right.
He was never this bad.
Right.
For that long.
Yes.
Right? He would get back to it a little sooner. I think it's the way they started that was so different. They've had some hurdles lately. Last year they had to get in. They won at the very end of the season to win the division. I didn't think they'd get swept at home. I didn't think they'd win Game 1. I thought the pitcher's going to be tough for them to, get going. Mm-hmm. But you're thinking, hey, you're right. You have 2-1 and you're bringing in Presley and Hader. Certainly, you're going to take it to a decisive Game 3. You're not going to get swept. And then it just fell apart.
Let's look at we got a graphic here just showing, just to reiterate just how dominant this organization has been. We're not going to have that graphic, but the graphic was going to show every single year ALCS World Series. And, of course, this year it ends in the wild card round. But, you look at – let's talk about Hader just real fast. He comes in, got the mega deal. You got to get outs. He got save situations for the most part. But didn't he lose like 7 or 8 games this year or something like that?
Well, what Dana said about it when he was available after the series is a really smart way to say it if you're not really paying attention. He was really, really good as a closer.
As a closer.
Well, that's a certain situation, and he was very good as the closer. But half of his games weren't in save situations. The Game 2 situation, the Game 1 situation. And he just was really bad in all those. You can't really explain it, but it happens all the time. Closers in non-save situations, for some reason it doesn't work out. I mean, the bases are loaded. It's a tie game. He's in the game with 1 out needed to get out of it. He gives up a bases clearing double.
I think those runs go to Presley. Right?
Yes.
That's what he did. Yep. But I think James said something about 3 blown.
Yes, he only had 3 blown
saves, but that's still not telling the whole picture like you just said. So, yeah.
I want to ask, too, before we hear from Espada and Dana Brown, let's talk about Kyle Tucker. And, the lack of production we have seen in the playoffs now, dating back the last couple of years. He's hitting, I believe, I don't know the exact step, I think it's under 200.
Yeah.
Where's the playoff production for this guy? Where's the accountability for Kyle Tucker? I know this part of the year and he came back and all that kind of stuff, but he is paid to deliver in the postseason, and he failed.
He did fail, you could say, in 2 games, but you couldn't say anybody else didn't get anything done with the other players that were in the lineup. They had 1 extra base hit in 2 games. And unfortunately, going back to that 2-1 lead they had in the 8th inning, it's probably 3-1 as long as he doesn't hit into an inning-ending double play. They had 3 double plays in that game. There's a runner on third. Just do anything.
Do anything.
And it's 3-1.
I'm an inch closer because I think your mic's having a problem.
I think that the accountability came with the contract, right? He went to arbitration. And so next year when his contract is up, I think this will be part of the conversation. We really like you, but in postseason, we have some concerns. And so I think that's where the accountability is going to come in.
All right, let's listen in now. They had a news conference on Thursday there at Minute Maid Park with general manager Dana Brown and the skipper Joe Espada. Here's what they had to say.
We will not take anything off the table in terms of signing free agents or trades to upgrade the club. And so the main focus will be, let's get back to the postseason. Let's do what we need to do to get back, and we'll try to fill whatever holes that we have.
A team get tested, and you see the character of your team really through adversity. And the way we were tested early, I knew that this team was strong enough to make a push and get us into the postseason.
First year on the job for Joe Espada as manager, and It's been well documented, the slow start. He kept this group together. They've found a way, battled through these injuries. So I think a lot of credit goes to Joe Spada, the way he ran that clubhouse.
I think a lot of credit goes to it. I think he will grow into being a manager.
Yeah.
I'm one of the probably few people who has some concerns about his lineup structure. I don't know why you changed what you've done for 7 years.
We were talking about that the other night.
And so, yeah, that's a concern. I mean, it's not what happened this week, but I think those are some things he'll find his way, is balancing that analytics with what you know to be true. And that comes with experience. But you got to give him credit for doing the things well.
Yeah, the last three managers have all done similar things with what they've had to work with, getting them to a certain point. But he was the only one of those three, AJ, Dusty, now him, that was doing it for the very first time. They've had experience before, and I think what he did at the beginning of the season probably shouldn't have done. Didn't take him forever to figure out he shouldn't have done that, but they were in a huge hole, and that wasn't the only reason, like you said. The pitching, the beginning of the season, Hader and Presley and Abreu couldn't get anybody out. That's not his fault. You put a group together to get this done, and they just didn't do it. There are little bits and pieces of any manager's season we want to pick apart and should, and he had plenty of them. But essentially, it's on the
first
guys
season.
That are out there. He's got plenty of, they have talent, and they put it on the field in this wild card series. It just didn't happen.
And they fully expect to be there again next year, get some pitching arms back. Hopefully, they get healthy and they contribute. Right now, as the last few minutes here of the show, what's going to happen with a couple of key players? Alex Bregman, front and center. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a second. Right now, let's listen into Dana Brown and Bregman and Jose Altuve. Here's what they said.
Of course, we're going to have some conversations with, Bregman in terms of coming back. I mean, he's done an outstanding job here. He's been a pillar in this organization and a big part of winning. And as I mentioned earlier, we will not take anything off the table in terms of signing free agents.
I have a family now. We're raising our son here in Houston, Texas. It's meant a lot. I came here when I was 21 years old. Made my debut against the Yankees, and been to the ALCS every year except for this one. So it's been a fun time, and I've cherished every second of it, and it's been an honor to be here, and I definitely don't take it for granted.
I don't want to get to the idea of thinking about last game with Breggy. Like I said 2 weeks ago, I'm pretty confident that he's going to be our third baseman next year. We have to. We're not going to be the same organization without him, so in my mind, there's not a chance that this is the last game.
All right, strong comments for the second time in a week or so from Jose Altuve. What do y'all think here? Message delivered. Jose Altuve is not a real vocal guy, but he's really stepped up on the topic of Alex Bregman over the last week. Little message there delivered to Crane, you think?
Yeah, most soon-to-be free agents don't have their agent in the clubhouse with them, like Bregman does with Jose Altuve. And yes, they do have Scott Boras and Boras Corp as their agency. But for this to be the third time he's said something publicly, and he's been through this before with someone who's as close to as anybody, with Carlos Correa, different time in the organization, different players they might have had to replace them with, and where they are now, and he's locked in for the next 5 years, next 4 years. He doesn't want to be here if they don't have a chance to win, and that's what he sees if Bregman isn't with him.
Basically one of the captains of this team, and you got to be real careful unloading another big name when you got other decisions to make. But Bregman brings it all to the table.
He brings it all to the table. It's clear what Altuve feels about him, and clearly we know what the organization thinks of Jose Altuve. Does that move the needle with Jim Crane when it comes to signing that check? I don't know. I believe that they want him back. If they can get him for the deal that they want, I just don't know. Get it done in this time when you have the exclusive opportunity, because if he goes to the free market, it's over.
Absolutely. We'll see how that plays out. It's going to be a crazy offseason for sure. Before we run out of time, Justin Verlander, I think we got a graphic here of JV and is that coming up? Actually, we got the video too. Justin Verlander, I don't know what he's going to command. Does he want to come back?
He said he wanted to come back.
Should the Astros bring him back on a one-year deal? What do y'all think?
I think they should not bring him back on any deal.
Done.
Yeah, he's done. I mean, Dana said it yesterday. Listen, we got to do what's best for the team. We love him, but I think he's done.
What you don't think this present for just 1 year, if it's a team favored deal?
I mean, it would have to be extremely favorable because of just the money you're already committed to for so many other things, all the arbitration cases that are going to bump up other guys' salaries. You have other decisions to make. You know, Fromber and Kyle obviously are only definitely on your roster if you don't trade them for one more year. So, and his 28 games as an Astro since they reacquired him, they weren't good.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't think he can do what he thinks he can do.
He didn't even make the roster for the wild card series.
I think he would have been on the ALDS roster.
He would have.
And I don't know what role, if they started him and say, hey, give us 2 innings, or out of the bullpen, who knows. I don't think he was needed in the wild card round, but
Can he hit?
Yeah.
That's what they needed.
Yeah, a veteran pitcher they probably need. I just don't think it'll be him.
All right, we got about a minute left here. Yeah, 1 minute left. Just top priority. Just say Bregman comes back and they work that deal. You got third base taken care of. What's the other priority? I'm looking right at center field and first base. What do y'all think?
I mean, I think there's probably not a whole lot out there at first base they can sign, especially if they spend so much money on Bregman. So it may just end up being another outfielder to compete for that time in center field. They tried to commit to Jake Myers. Second part of his season was abysmal, and they didn't expect Chas McCormick to not be the player he was the last 2 years, really. So they're probably going to see if there's a possibility to move them. Otherwise, they're probably still first in line. But I think center field might actually be where they bring somebody in.
I think center field. I don't know why you don't just do what you did with John Singleton. He helps you in your run. I mean, he's not going to get to the, Hall of Fame, but I think he's serviceable.
Yeah, I think he's got a role. I don't think he's an everyday player, but he definitely has a role, I think, on this baseball team. So we will see. Off season, unfortunately, in early October begins for the Astros instead of what we're used to, late October, early November, in a deep playoff run. Did not happen, but maybe next year. But we got a lot to talk about in the coming months for sure. But on the Astros front, we got Rockets starting. We got Texans with a big one against the Bills. Kim Davis from Chalk Talk. Kim, thanks for coming in. Adam Wexler, Sports Talk 790, and Aaron Wilson as well, our insider for ClickToHouston.com. That's it for now. Have a great weekend, everybody.